There is a silent moment that lives within every human being. A moment where the question arises, quietly, almost like a whisper. Who would I become if I truly believed that nothing is impossible for me? This question is not answered by the mouth. It is answered by how you move, how you live, how you show up when no one is looking. We were not born with limits. We were taught them. And today, you will be guided to unlearn those limits, to step beyond doubt, to reconnect with the self that remembers. Nothing is impossible unless you agree with the boundaries handed to you. The journey begins not with adding more, but with gently letting go. Let us begin. Unlearn the limitations you were taught. From the moment we open our eyes to this world, we begin to absorb not just information, but conditioning. We inherit ideas, beliefs, and limitations. Some are whispered by our parents in moments of caution. Others are echoed by teachers, friends, media, and the culture around us. These messages aren't always spoken in words. Sometimes they are just looks, raised eyebrows when you dream big, silence when you succeed, or laughter when you try something different. Over time, all these messages begin to settle deep in the subconscious mind. Like layers of dust on a window, they start to cloud your vision. You begin to look at life not as it truly is, but through the lens of what you've been told is possible or realistic. Eventually, you mistake these hand-me-down ideas for truth. But ask yourself gently, who defined what's possible for you? Was it someone who had already broken their own limits? Or someone who never tested theirs? There's a profound truth that many never consider. Most of the limitations you carry were never yours to begin with. They were passed down out of fear, protection, or ignorance. But just because something was repeated doesn't make it real. To begin to act as if nothing is impossible, the first and perhaps most essential step is to unlearn. Not to gather more knowledge, but to remove what no longer serves you. Like a sculptor chiseling away the stone to reveal the statue beneath, you must gently remove the beliefs that have hidden your potential. This process is not forceful, it is mindful. It begins with awareness. When a thought arises, I can't do this. This is too big for me. I've never seen anyone succeed at this. Pause. Do not fight it. Just look at it and then ask, where did this come from? Did you ever choose this thought consciously, or did it arrive from somewhere outside of you? Most people live inside a mental structure built by other people's experiences. But possibility begins where you question the architecture of your inner world. Possibility expands when you realize you can choose your own definition. The great paradox is this: you were taught to believe you are small. But the very act of questioning that belief begins to awaken your true size. You realize that the mind, when left unguarded, becomes a mirror of limitation. But when observed with clarity, it becomes a doorway to freedom. Unlearning doesn't mean disrespecting those who shaped you. It means honoring the truth that you are not here to repeat their patterns. You are here to evolve beyond them. Growth begins where blind loyalty ends. There are those who will say, be realistic, but understand what they call realism is often just fear in disguise. The person who tells you not to dream big is often the one who gave up on theirs. Compassion is needed, but so is discernment. You are not here to carry other people's fears. You are not here to live in their shadows. You are here to uncover the light that has been dimmed by generations of doubt. And so, step by step, you begin the unlearning. You question every belief that begins with I can't, I'm not. That's not for someone like me. You replace them not with delusions, but with possibilities. You ask instead, what if I could? What if I am? What if this was meant for me? Unlearning is not about erasing the past. It's about rewriting the present. Because when you see clearly, you act clearly. And when you act clearly, the impossible begins to bow. Assume the identity of your highest self. There is a silent truth hidden within all ancient teachings, all spiritual traditions, all paths of mastery. It is this: you are not becoming someone. You are remembering who you already are. To act as if nothing is impossible, you must begin not by changing your circumstances, but by changing your internal posture, not with force, but with awareness. The most powerful transformation does not begin with what should I do, but with who must I be. Assume the identity of your highest self. Not tomorrow, not when you've achieved something. Now. Most people wait. They wait for proof before they believe. They wait for permission before they act. They wait for applause before they speak. But the one who walks the path of the impossible does the opposite. They move from belief not to believe. This is not arrogance. It is alignment. When you assume the identity of your highest self, you are not pretending. You are stepping into what is already within you, dormant and waiting. Like firewood, waiting for a spark. Like a seed already encoded with the tree. But you must wear it, not as a costume, but as a second skin. You must walk as that version of yourself. You must eat, sleep, speak, and breathe from that place. You must treat your life not as it is, but as it would be if you were already the person you are destined to become. This is the essence of the ancient teaching, as within, so without. The world does not give you your identity, it reflects the one you have chosen. If you walk as the small version of yourself, the world mirrors back smallness. If you walk as the powerful version of yourself, the world cannot help but begin to respond in kind. This identity shift is not about external things, titles, possessions, reputation. Those are fragile. They come and go. The real shift is internal, a quiet conviction that says, this is who I am now. And from that conviction, a new reality begins to form around you. Your posture changes. You stop apologizing for your existence. You speak with fewer words, but more weight. You no longer seek validation, because the highest self does not beg. It radiates. When the identity changes, action becomes natural. You no longer have to force yourself to be disciplined. You no longer need motivation to keep moving. You no longer argue with your potential. You have become it. Many try to skip this step. They chase strategies, shortcuts, hacks. But no strategy can outwork a weak identity. No method can overcome misalignment. If you believe you are not ready, the world will agree with you. So pause. Imagine the version of you who already lives from the impossible. What does their day look like? What do they tolerate? How do they think? What do they no longer chase? This version of you is not a fantasy. It is a blueprint. And the more you walk in that direction, the more the distance between who you were and who you are meant to be begins to vanish. You do not need to fake it. You need to embody it quietly, fully, without needing to convince anyone else. Because once you assume the identity of your highest self, the universe, the world, and even your own biology begin to organize themselves in response. Not because magic has occurred, but because alignment has. And from alignment, the impossible becomes simply the next step. Align actions with inner stillness. In the modern world, people are in constant motion, always chasing, always striving, always reaching. But very few stop to ask, from where is this movement arising? Most action today is reaction. It comes not from inner silence, but from noise. Noise from comparison, noise from fear, noise from expectations. But when your actions come from noise, the result is always exhaustion. To act as if nothing is impossible is not about doing more. It's about doing from a place of complete inner alignment. It is not chaotic effort, it is precise motion. A sword doesn't need to swing wildly to be powerful. Its power lies in the calm of the wielder. So too, your greatest moves will not come from frenzy, but from stillness. Stillness is not inactivity. It is not laziness. It is not stagnation. Stillness is the space between breath and thought. It is that moment of deep knowing when your action is no longer driven by insecurity, but clarity. From this stillness, when you act, you do not doubt. You do not hesitate. You are not checking if the world approves. You are not asking for signs. You move with certainty. Because you are not acting to prove, you are acting to express. Most people rush into action to silence the discomfort of inaction. They fear stillness because it confronts them with themselves. But this is exactly where your power lives, in the willingness to pause, to observe, to listen inward. In silence, truth emerges. In stillness, direction becomes clear. The wise ones have always known this. A bow must be drawn back before it is released. A wave must pull inward before it crashes forward. Nature never rushes, yet everything is accomplished. This is not poetry, it is principle. When you align your action with inner stillness, you enter the same rhythm. Stillness is where resistance dissolves. When you sit quietly with a decision, not forcing, not pushing, but simply becoming aware, you begin to notice which actions feel heavy and which feel light. You begin to sense the subtle signal that says, this is the way. You become attuned, like an instrument being tuned to the right frequency. In that space, what to do becomes obvious. Not always easy, not always comfortable, but clear. And from this clarity, your action no longer scatters your energy. It concentrates it. One decision made from inner stillness is more powerful than 100 rushed ones made from anxiety. Stillness aligns your intention, your body and your breath. You become one with the task, and the task becomes effortless. What seems impossible to others becomes natural to you. Not because you are trying harder, but because you are not wasting energy on doubt. It is easy to confuse stillness with passivity. But stillness is not passive. It is the most active form of awareness. It is a readiness, a quiet fire, not a storm. And when it is time to move, you will move with such force, such precision, such presence, that it will appear to others like magic. But it is not magic, it is mastery. Mastery is not built on constant motion. It is built on the ability to pause, reflect and then strike with purpose. The archer does not release the arrow until the moment is right. The martial artist does not throw 1,000 punches. He throws one when it matters. The mind that can sit in stillness is the same mind that can act without hesitation. So begin to make space for this stillness in your life. Not once a year, not once a week, daily. Even if for only a few minutes. Sit, breathe, observe. Not to escape action, but to refine it. You will find that from this place, your movements become fewer, but far more effective. You will speak less, but your words will carry weight. You will do less, but create more impact. And through this, you will begin to understand it is not the amount of action that creates results. It is the alignment behind it. Walk with certainty. not ego. When you begin to walk as if nothing is impossible for you, a certain presence enters your steps. It's not loud, it doesn't boast, it doesn't demand attention, but it is unmistakable. It is the calm confidence of someone who knows, not believes, but knows that they are aligned with something far greater than doubt. This is certainty. Certainty is not arrogance. Arrogance says, I'm better than you. Certainty says, I know who I am. The difference is vast. Arrogance needs to be seen. Certainty is content in silence. Arrogance pushes others down to feel tall. Certainty lifts others by simply standing tall. To walk with certainty is to move through the world with an inner compass. While others seek validation, you are grounded. While others are swayed by opinions, you remain centered. This is not because you are stubborn, but because you are connected to your values, to your purpose, to your path. You do not need to explain yourself. You do not need to defend your choices. You do not need to argue, because your energy already speaks before you do. When certainty enters the room, it is felt. But this certainty must be cultivated. It is not inherited. It is earned through experience, discipline, and self-inquiry. You must ask yourself difficult questions. What do I stand for? What do I tolerate? What is non-negotiable in my life? Who am I when no one is watching? Certainty begins to grow when you answer these questions honestly and then begin living in alignment with those answers. The more consistent you become, the more solid your foundation. And from that foundation, you begin to walk not with hesitation, but with quiet force. Many confuse ego for power. But ego is loud because it is afraid. Certainty is quiet because it is complete. The one who is truly powerful does not need to convince anyone. The one who walks with certainty does not seek approval, applause, or agreement. This does not mean you ignore others. It means you are not ruled by them. You listen, you learn, but you are not shaken. You are rooted. And roots grow in stillness, not in noise. Ego is reactive. It fights, it postures, it tries to dominate. Certainty is responsive. It observes, it adapts, it influences without force. This is the way of the master. This is the way of one who knows that nothing is impossible, not because of external strength, but because of internal stability. To walk with certainty is to carry a quiet presence. You don't need to speak much. When you do, people listen. You don't need to rush. Your timing is precise. You don't seek to impress. Your being is already impactful. And this certainty, when cultivated over time, becomes unshakable. Even when the world doubts you, you remain firm. Even when obstacles rise, you move forward. Even when you fall, you rise with deeper resolve. Because certainty is not about avoiding failure. It's about knowing that even failure cannot define you. You are not the outcome. You are the one who continues. This is the power of walking with certainty. Let your presence speak louder than your words. There is a certain energy that does not come from speech, from titles, or from physical strength. It is not seen, yet it is felt. This is the energy of presence. True presence is not about taking up space. It's about filling space with awareness, clarity, and calm power. When you begin to act as if nothing is impossible for you, your presence becomes your loudest expression. Not because it is noisy, but because it is unmistakably clear. Most people try to influence the world by saying more, doing more, proving more. But those who have stepped into deep inner alignment understand, the less you need to say, the more your presence communicates. A calm mind enters the room like still water, and yet it changes the temperature of everyone in it. You do not need to raise your voice when your energy is already rooted in truth. This kind of presence is not developed in public. It is cultivated in solitude. It is formed in quiet hours, when no one is watching, when you choose discipline over distraction, when you listen to yourself without escaping, when you become comfortable with silence, not as a void but as a teacher. Presence begins to build when your thoughts, words, and actions become one. There is no performance, no mask, no pretending, just alignment. In this state, others feel safe around you. They feel clear, not because of what you say, but because of the space you hold. There is a still strength in those who do not need to prove themselves. That stillness creates gravity. This is not charisma. Charisma is sometimes loud and often short-lived. Presence is deeper. It comes from a clear relationship with yourself. It comes from knowing your worth regardless of outcome. When you no longer seek to impress anyone, your authenticity begins to speak. That authenticity cannot be imitated, it cannot be faked. It either exists or it does. And when it exists, it does something rare. It silences noise. When a person of true presence walks into a room, the energy shifts. Conversations slow. Attention gathers. Not out of fear, not out of force, but out of recognition. Recognition that someone has entered who knows who they are. This recognition doesn't come from the eyes, but from the spirit. Your presence begins to speak louder than your words when every part of you becomes congruent. When your mind is clear, your body grounded, and your intention pure. When your silence carries more weight than another's shouting. When your stillness draws more focus than another's performance. This is not something you need to ask for. It is something you become. But to cultivate this, you must first learn to be present with yourself. If you cannot sit with your own mind, without judgment, without needing to escape, then your energy will always be fragmented. Presence cannot exist when the mind is scattered. It cannot exist when the heart is closed. You must first gather yourself fully and honestly. Begin with the breath. The breath is your anchor to the present. Most people breathe shallow, speak fast, and act from tension. You must reverse that. Breathe deeply, speak deliberately, move with intention. In time, your nervous system will calm, your attention will sharpen, and others will begin to feel the peace that you carry. Not because you announce it, but because it radiates from you. People don't remember every word you say, but they remember how they felt in your presence. They remember whether they felt seen, heard, and respected. They remember whether your energy lifted them or drained them. Your presence teaches more than your advice. It instructs silently, yet powerfully. To walk as if nothing is impossible requires this level of internal congruence. Because when your presence is aligned with your belief, the world begins to listen, even when you are silent. You stop chasing approval and start commanding attention, not through force but through frequency. Presence is power without noise. It is strength without aggression. It is wisdom without lecture. It is truth worn lightly. Use fear as a guide, not a barrier. Fear is not your enemy. Fear is a signal. It shows you where the edge is. It points to where growth lives. But the mistake most people make is to treat fear as a stop sign, to retreat from it, to avoid it, to shrink themselves because of it. But fear is not a stop sign. It is a spotlight. It illuminates the exact direction your soul wants to move. But your mind resists. To act as if nothing is impossible for you is not to become fearless. It is to develop a new relationship with fear. Instead of asking, "How can I get rid of fear?" You begin to ask, what is this fear trying to reveal? You use it as a compass. The presence of fear often means you're about to do something meaningful, something real, something that stretches the version of you that you have been. When fear appears, pause and observe. Don't react. Don't run. Just look. Where is it in your body? Is it a tight chest, a racing heart, a dry mouth? Just observe. Because in the space between the sensation and the story, you gain power. You begin to separate fear from identity. I feel afraid becomes very different from I am afraid. One is temporary. The other is a label. Once you begin to use fear as a guide, it becomes your greatest ally. You begin to notice that what you fear the most is often exactly what you must do. Not because it's dangerous, but because it's transformative. Fear protects comfort, but growth requires discomfort. And the one who learns to sit inside the discomfort without running is the one who begins to build inner strength. Your comfort zone is not safe, it's familiar, but familiarity is not peace, it is routine. Peace does not come from hiding. It comes from facing. Fear avoided becomes anxiety. Fear observed becomes awareness. Fear moved through becomes power. Every person who has ever done something extraordinary has walked through fear. Not around it, not beneath it, through it. The moment you feel the fear rise is the exact moment you must move. Not blindly, but with courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is fear walked with awareness. Fear is a mirror. It shows you what you believe about yourself. If you fear rejection, perhaps you believe you are not enough. If you fear failure, perhaps you believe success defines your worth. If you fear judgment, perhaps you have not yet accepted yourself fully. These are not flaws. These are opportunities. Opportunities to see yourself clearly and then rise beyond the limitation. When fear arises, ask it, what are you here to teach me? And then listen. Don't resist, don't argue. Just listen. In that quiet conversation, wisdom emerges. Fear might tell you, you care too much what they think. Good. Now you know. You can start practicing self-acceptance. Fear might whisper, you've never done this before. Perfect. That means it's time to grow. Let fear sharpen you. Let it build your focus. Let it humble you enough to train harder, prepare deeper, and honor the challenge ahead. Do not become careless in the name of bravery. True courage includes wisdom, but it does not include avoidance. You were not born to live a life that fear approves of. You were born to transcend the inner walls that fear builds. Every time you walk through fear, you expand your territory. You stretch your identity. You realize you are more capable than you thought, and slowly, the impossible becomes possible. Not because fear disappears, but because it no longer controls the path. Carry the vibration of what you seek. Before anything becomes physical, it begins as energy. Every goal, every dream, every transformation starts as a frequency you hold within. When you carry the vibration of what you seek, you no longer chase it. It begins to come toward you. You walk, speak, and make decisions as if it's already yours. You match the emotion of the future you desire, the calm of abundance, the confidence of success, the grace of purpose. Most people carry the vibration of lack while wanting wealth, the energy of fear while desiring courage. This creates a gap, but when your internal frequency matches your vision, the outer world begins to align naturally. You become magnetic, not because of what you do, but because of what you radiate. Alignment is not pretending. It's embodying the energy of your future self now. It's living as if, not waiting until the external mirrors the internal. Shift your state, and reality follows. Act from clarity, not chaos. Clarity is power. When the mind is still, choices become sharp, movement becomes efficient, and energy is preserved. Chaos leads to reaction, but clarity leads to right action. In a noisy world, most act from pressure, urgency, and confusion, mistaking motion for progress. But only aligned action creates real momentum. Before you move, pause. Ask, what is truly needed here? What is the next step? From that still space, answers emerge without force. The clearer your mind, the more precise your actions. Clarity comes from simplicity, from knowing what matters and letting go of what doesn't. Do not rush to be busy. Be intentional. When you act from clarity, even small steps carry great force. You don't waste time fixing what wasn't broken or chasing what was never yours. Presence becomes your compass, and you begin to move through life with purpose instead of panic. Embody the outcome before it arrives. Creation begins not with evidence, but embodiment. Before results appear in your life, they must appear in your posture, your behavior, your decisions. Embodying the outcome means living in alignment with your desired reality. Now, not later. If you seek peace, move and speak with calm. If you seek success, show up with commitment and order. Waiting for external proof delays transformation. But when you fully embody the version of yourself who already has what you desire, you collapse the gap between now and then. This is not pretending. It is presence. The mind does not know the difference between reality and repetition. When you feel it deeply and act accordingly, life begins to reorganize itself around that inner truth. You stop doubting because you've already become. Results then arrive not as surprises, but confirmations. Master yourself before mastering the world. The foundation of all outer mastery is inner mastery. Without command of your own thoughts, emotions, and responses, external power becomes unstable. Mastery begins in the unseen. Your breath, your focus, your attitude under pressure. The one who controls themselves cannot be controlled by others. You train not to impress, but to remain unmoved by distraction and grounded in storm. The world is a mirror. What you have not resolved within will repeat outside. Conquer your habits, silence your inner noise, and build discipline that doesn't depend on motivation. The more deeply you understand yourself, the more clearly you can move through the world. Without self-mastery, success becomes accidental, but with it your actions are deliberate, your presence unshakable, and your influence quiet yet profound. Throughout this journey, you've been reminded that your limits are not set in stone. They are often inherited beliefs you never chose. To move beyond the impossible, you must begin by unlearning. You must pause and peel away what was placed upon you, not by truth, but by fear. Then you assume the identity of your highest self, not someday, but now. You begin to live from the inside out, walking as the version of you who already holds the vision. No need to wait for proof. You become the evidence. From there, your actions are no longer fueled by anxiety or pressure. They arise from deep inner stillness. Stillness sharpens your decisions and aligns your movements with clarity. You act not to prove, but to express. And as you walk with certainty, not ego, you learn to carry quiet strength. You need no external validation, because your presence itself speaks louder than your words. Your energy becomes your statement. People begin to feel your authenticity, even in your silence. Along this path, fear will visit you. But instead of turning away, you use it as a guide. You let it reveal your next threshold. You walk through fear, not to show the world, but to show yourself that growth lives on the other side of discomfort. You begin to carry the vibration of what you seek. Instead of hoping, you embody. Instead of chasing, you attract. Your frequency becomes your prayer. You act from clarity, not chaos. Simplicity becomes your strength. And eventually, you embody the outcome even before it arrives. Your life becomes a mirror of the identity you have chosen to live from. It's not acting, it's alignment. And finally, you realize that before you can master anything in the world, you must master yourself, your habits, your thoughts, your attention. Because a person who cannot govern themselves will never lead their destiny. This is the path. This is the return back to the version of you that was never limited, only buried. Not a journey of adding more, but of remembering what was always there. You do not need to become someone else. You only need to remove what you are not. Master yourself, and the world will follow your lead.